Hello, wonderful English learner. Welcome back to the Wonderful English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I want to take you on a journey, a personal and practical one, about something every English learner faces: how to talk about yourself confidently, naturally, and meaningfully. You see, this is one of the most common situations we all experience when speaking English. It doesn't matter whether you're in a classroom, at a job interview, or just chatting with a stranger on the train. At some point, someone will look at you and ask, "So, tell me about yourself." And that's the moment when many learners freeze. Their mind goes blank. Their heart beats faster. Words disappear. But here's the truth I've learned, both from my own journey and from thousands of learners I've met. Talking about yourself is not just a language skill, it's a life skill. It's the way you show the world who you are. So, in this episode, we're going to slow down and explore how you can transform this simple question, "Tell me about yourself," into an opportunity to express your identity, share your story, and connect with others, all in clear, confident English. And don't worry, my friend, we're going to do it step by step. By the end of this episode, you'll not only know what to say, but how to feel comfortable saying it. So take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and imagine you're having a friendly conversation with me. Just you and me, talking about life, growth, and language. 1. Why talking about yourself feels so hard. Let's start with a question. Why does such a simple question, "Tell me about yourself," feel so uncomfortable? I've asked this to many of my students, and the answers are always the same. They say, "I don't know what to say. I don't want to sound boring. I'm afraid I'll make a mistake. I don't want to talk too much about myself." Sound familiar? The real reason is this: we're not used to describing ourselves. Even in our native language, we often hesitate when someone asks us to talk about who we are. It feels personal, even vulnerable. And in English, that pressure doubles. Because now you're not only trying to be honest, you're also trying to be grammatically correct. But let me tell you something powerful. Confidence in English doesn't come from knowing every word. It comes from owning your story. When you know who you are and what you want to share, the language flows more naturally. So instead of trying to sound perfect, I want you to start thinking about how to sound real. 2. Building the foundation, the core of self-introduction. Let's build from the basics, but in a meaningful way. When you talk about yourself, you're actually answering 3 invisible questions. 1. Who are you? 2. What do you do or enjoy doing? 3. What kind of person are you? If you can answer those 3 things naturally, you already have a complete, confident introduction. Let's try a simple example. Listen to this. "Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from a small town near the coast and I work as a language coach. I love helping people find their voice in English because I know how it feels to be afraid to speak. In my free time, I enjoy reading travel stories and walking by the sea." Now, what do you notice here? It's not complicated. No fancy grammar, no difficult vocabulary. But it tells you a lot. Where I'm from, what I do, what I care about, and a glimpse of my personality. That's the secret. Talking about yourself in English isn't about saying a lot. It's about saying the right things in the right way. 3. The power of small details. Here's one of my favourite tips. Specific details create emotional connection. When you say, I like reading, that's okay. But when you say, I love reading mystery novels because I enjoy trying to guess who the villain is, suddenly the person listening feels curious. They get to know you. It's the same for any hobby or interest. If you play guitar, talk about when you play. If you like coffee, describe your favorite type. If you enjoy travel, share a small memory from a trip. The moment you include a detail, your English becomes alive. You sound less like a student and more like a storyteller. Let's try a quick exercise together. Think of one thing you love doing. Maybe cooking, painting, singing, running, gardening, or writing. Now complete this sentence in your head. I enjoy your hobby because. Don't overthink it. Just finish it naturally. This small because sentence is one of the most powerful tools in your English conversations. It shows personality, builds fluency, and helps others connect with you emotionally. 4. Stories make you memorable. Now let's take it further. Imagine you're in a new English-speaking environment, maybe a classroom, or your first day at work, or even a friendly gathering. You introduce yourself politely, and then someone smiles and says, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more." At that moment, what makes you memorable is the story you share next. People remember stories, not lists of facts. So when you talk about yourself, think of a small story that reveals something about who you are. For example, I started learning English when I was 12, but I was too shy to speak. One day, my teacher asked me to read a poem in front of the class, and I was shaking. But after that, I realized speaking English wasn't about perfection. It was about courage. From then on, I decided to speak, even if I made mistakes. That's just a short, simple story, but it's real. And when you share something real, people listen. Because behind every English learner, there's a story of effort, of dreams, of progress. 5. How to sound natural, not robotic. You've probably heard people say, "Speak naturally." But what does that really mean? It doesn't mean speaking fast or using slang. It means sounding like a person who thinks while speaking. Real conversations are not perfect. They have pauses, little corrections, small laughs, and emotions. And that's exactly what makes them human. Here are some ways you can sound natural when talking about yourself. Use connectors like actually, to be honest, well, you know, or for example. These words make your sentences flow more like real speech. Pause when you think. Don't rush. Confidence lives in calm pauses. Smile while you speak. Your voice changes when you smile. It sounds warmer, friendlier, and more confident. Let me give you an example of the difference. My name is Alex. I'm a teacher. I like reading. Well, my name's Alex. I'm a teacher, and actually, I really enjoy reading, especially travel books, because they take me to new places, even when I'm sitting at home. Can you hear the difference? The second one sounds alive. It's not just correct, it's human. 6. Overcoming the fear of speaking about yourself. Now, let's talk about the part no one wants to admit. The fear. That small voice in your head that says, "What if I sound stupid?" Or, "What if they don't understand me?" If that's ever happened to you, I want you to know you're not alone. Every single confident English speaker you've ever met once felt that fear too. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it's learning to speak despite it. When you speak about yourself, you're not being tested, you're sharing. You're giving the other person a chance to know you. So next time you feel nervous, remind yourself, you're not performing, you're connecting. And connection always matters more than perfection. Here's a little mindset shift I often teach my students. Instead of thinking, I must speak perfectly, tell yourself, I want to share something meaningful. That one change will transform your entire attitude. Because English is not a wall between you and others, it's a bridge. 7. Turning self-introduction into real conversation. Okay, now let's imagine you've just introduced yourself confidently. What happens next? The conversation continues. Someone might ask you, "Oh, really? What kind of books do you read?" Or, "You said you enjoy travelling. Where did you go last time?" And that's where your conversation grows. You see, talking about yourself is just the first door. Once you open it, you can move into real, flowing conversation. So instead of giving short answers, give answers that invite more questions. For example, I like cooking. I like cooking, especially Italian food. I learned a few recipes from my friend who lived in Rome. What happens next? The listener now has something to ask about. Maybe they'll say, "Oh, that sounds delicious. What's your favourite dish?" And just like that, you're having a natural English conversation. 8. The 3 layers of a good conversation. Let me share something that completely changed how I teach speaking. I call it the 3 layers of a good conversation. They are 1. Facts, what you say. 2. Feelings, how you feel about it. 3. Follow-ups, how you continue. Let's take an example. Fact, I work as a designer. Feeling, I really love designing because it allows me to be creative every day. Follow-up, how about you? Do you enjoy creative work too? Now you're not only talking about yourself, you're also giving the other person space to join the conversation. That's how confidence feels in action. 9. Using emotion to strengthen your English. Many learners forget something essential. Language isn't just grammar, it's emotion. When you speak about yourself, don't be afraid to show how you feel. You can use expressions like, I'm really passionate about. It makes me feel calm when. I'm proud of. I've always been curious about. Emotion is what makes people connect with you. Let's say someone asks you, why did you start learning English? You could say, because it's useful. Or you could say, I started learning English because I wanted to understand songs and movies in their original language. Now, it feels amazing when I understand a whole film without subtitles. See the difference? Emotion makes your English memorable. 10. Practice your story in 5 sentences. Now it's time for a little practice you can do anywhere, even right after this episode. Try writing or saying your personal story in just 5 sentences. 1. Who you are and where you're from. 2. What you do or study. 3. Something you enjoy. 4. A small story or experience. 5. What you're learning or looking forward to. For example, Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm from a beautiful coastal town. I teach English online, and I love helping people express themselves. A few years ago, I was terrified to speak in front of others. But little by little, I learned to enjoy it. These days, I love connecting with learners from around the world, and I'm excited to see how my students grow with every conversation. That's it. 5 sentences that tell a whole story. You can do this too. If you repeat this small exercise every week, you'll see how naturally your English grows. You'll start adding details, using better expressions, and feeling more confident every time. 11. Growing beyond the basics. Making your English feel alive. Now that you've learned how to express your story in simple, natural sentences, let's go a little deeper. When you talk about yourself, your goal isn't just to inform people, it's to connect with them. And to do that, you need to make your English sound alive, expressive, emotional, and meaningful. Think about your favourite speakers or podcasts. They don't just tell you facts, they take you on a little journey, right? Their voices move up and down. They pause at the right moments. They smile through words. That's the kind of English we want to build together. English that has personality. So, how can you make your self-introduction or personal talk more alive? Let's explore 3 key elements: tone, rhythm, and energy. Tone. Your tone tells people how you feel. You can say the same sentence with different tones, and it will feel completely different. Example: I'm from a small town. Sounds neutral. But if you say, I'm from a small town, and honestly, I love how peaceful it is, your tone adds warmth. Rhythm. Try not to speak every word the same way. Add small pauses. Change your speed. Real English has rhythm. It breathes. When you talk about yourself, speak like you're telling a story, not reading a list. Energy. Energy doesn't mean volume, it means intention. Speak as if what you're saying matters, because it does. When you put real energy into your voice, people will feel it. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, they'll remember your passion. 12. Expanding your vocabulary naturally. Now let's talk about vocabulary, but not in the traditional memorize this list way. I want to show you how to grow your vocabulary organically while talking about yourself. Instead of trying to remember every new word, focus on the words that describe you, because those are the ones you'll actually use often. Start with categories like personality, calm, curious, creative, reliable, patient, adventurous, work and study, design, manage, support, improve, develop, organize, feelings, proud, inspired, nervous, excited, grateful, daily life, commute, workout, relax, cook, journal, unwind. Now try this exercise. Pick one category and create 3 sentences about yourself using those words. Example: I'm a curious person, so I love learning new things. My friends say I'm patient, especially when I teach. I try to stay positive, even when things get challenging. You don't need hundreds of fancy words. You just need your words, the ones that describe your story. Once you master those, your English becomes personal, authentic, and powerful. 13. The secret of flow in conversation. Have you ever noticed how some conversations feel easy and smooth, while others feel awkward and forced? That difference is what I call flow. Flow happens when you're not just answering, you're responding, reacting, adding and asking back. Here's how you can create flow when talking about yourself. A. Reflect and relate. When someone shares something about themselves, respond with a connection. For example, "Oh, you like hiking? Me too. I usually go hiking on weekends near the hills outside my city." This small response turns a conversation from question-answer into connection sharing. B. Echo and expand. Echo part of what the other person says, then expand it. Example: "You said you're learning English for your job. That's great. I started for the same reason. Communication at work is so important." C. Add feelings. Use emotional language to make your words sound sincere. "That sounds amazing. I totally understand what you mean. That must have been exciting." These tiny emotional reactions make people feel seen and heard, and that's the true art of conversation. 14. The role of curiosity. If there's one habit that can transform your English conversations, it's curiosity. Curiosity keeps your conversations fresh and natural. When you ask questions, not because you have to, but because you want to know, people feel your genuine interest. So when someone shares something about themselves, ask a question that shows you care. Instead of, "Where are you from?" try, "What's your favourite thing about your hometown?" Instead of, "What do you do?" try, "What do you enjoy most about your work?" Those small shifts turn polite questions into meaningful conversations. And here's the bonus. When you're curious, you take the focus off yourself. You stop worrying about mistakes, and you start listening. That's when you sound your most confident, because your attention is on connection, not correction. 15. Dealing with mistakes gracefully. Let's be honest, no conversation is mistake-free. Even native speakers make slips all the time. So what matters isn't whether you make mistakes, it's how you handle them. Here's the best way. Don't stop. If you forget a word, use another one. If your grammar feels off, just keep the rhythm. Most listeners care more about your message than your accuracy. You can even make small, natural corrections like this. I go running every morning. This sounds human, not awkward. Remember, confidence is not about being perfect. It's about continuing with calmness, even when things don't go as planned. Every mistake you make is a sign that you're trying. And trying is always progress. 16. Building your conversation toolkit. Let's create something practical together. Your conversation toolkit. Think of it like your pocket of ready-to-use English expressions. You can use them in almost any situation, especially when talking about yourself or continuing a discussion. For starting your introduction. Well, to start with, let me see. I'd describe myself as... I guess the best way to explain it is for sharing experiences. That reminds me of, I remember once when, actually something similar happened to me. For showing emotion. I felt so proud when it was such a beautiful moment. Honestly, it changed the way I see things. For keeping the flow. What about you? Have you ever tried that? That's interesting. Tell me more. These small tools make you sound confident, friendly, and fluent, like someone who belongs in the conversation. 17. The confidence loop. I want to share a concept that has helped thousands of my learners. I call it the confidence loop. It goes like this: speak, get feedback, reflect, improve, speak again. It's a simple cycle, but it's how you grow faster than you can imagine. When you speak, even a little, you collect experience. That experience gives you feedback. Maybe you notice where you paused or which words were missing. Then you reflect on that moment and make a tiny change. Next time, you speak again, just a little better. And every time you complete that loop, your confidence multiplies. That's why I always tell my listeners, never wait until you're ready. Start now. Speak now. Confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes from speaking. 18. Turning English into a daily habit. If you want to truly master the art of speaking about yourself, make English part of your daily rhythm. Not a subject, but a habit. Here are a few gentle ways to do it. Mirror talk. Each morning, look in the mirror and speak for 1 minute about your plans for the day. Don't worry about mistakes. Just let your words flow. Voice notes. Record a short diary in English every night. When you listen later, you'll notice how much your fluency improves. Shadowing. Find your favourite English speaker or podcast and repeat their sentences out loud. This helps you copy natural rhythm, tone, and confidence. Mini stories. Create a 1-minute story about your day, even a small event. For example, I tried a new recipe today, or I met a friend I hadn't seen in years. These tiny habits build your English muscle quietly but powerfully. Soon, talking about yourself will feel as natural as breathing. 19. The deeper connection. Speaking with heart. Let's go beyond language now. Let's talk about connection. The kind that stays even after the conversation ends. When you talk about yourself, you're not just giving information, you're giving a piece of your heart. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. So be genuine, be kind, be curious. You don't need to impress people with big words. You just need to express who you are with honesty and warmth. Sometimes a simple sentence like, "I'm still learning, but I love improving every day," is more powerful than a perfect speech, because it shows your humanity. And that's what real English is for, to connect, not to perform. 20. The power of listening. Talking about yourself is important, but listening is what completes the circle. When you truly listen to others, your own English grows faster. Why? Because you start noticing how people naturally respond. The words they use, the emotions they show. Try this. Next time you watch a movie, listen carefully to how characters start and end conversations. Notice how they react when someone shares something personal. You'll see a pattern. Conversations are not perfect. They're messy, emotional, and full of energy. And that's exactly how yours should be too. So as much as you practice speaking, also practice listening with curiosity. That's how you become a confident, connected English communicator. 21. Bringing it all together. Your conversation identity. Let's bring everything together now. Talking about yourself isn't about memorizing lines. It's about discovering your conversation identity. That's the version of you who speaks with calm confidence, expresses ideas with warmth, listens with genuine interest, and builds conversations that feel alive. When you realize that English isn't something outside of you, but part of who you are becoming, your fear starts to fade. You stop thinking, how can I sound fluent? And you start thinking, how can I express my truth? That's where real fluency begins, when language becomes your voice. 22. Your final challenge. Speak your truth. Before we finish, I want to leave you with a challenge, a beautiful one. In the next 24 hours, tell someone a small story about yourself in English. It could be a memory, a dream, or a little moment that made you smile. Don't focus on grammar. Don't check your notes. Just speak. Freely, naturally, like a friend. Maybe you'll say, I've been learning English for a while and today I finally spoke about myself. It felt good, and I promise you, that single moment will start a wave of confidence inside you. Because when you speak your truth, even imperfectly, your English stops being a subject and becomes a reflection of who you are. 23. Closing reflections. So, wonderful English learner, as we close today's journey, I want you to remember something very important. You already have everything you need to express yourself. The grammar, the vocabulary, those are tools, but the real power comes from your story, your heart, your willingness to connect. Every sentence you speak is a step toward the confident communicator you are becoming. Don't rush. Don't compare. Just grow, one conversation at a time. You are not just learning English. You are learning to share yourself with the world. And that's a beautiful, powerful thing. So keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep believing in your voice. Because the world doesn't need perfect English. It needs your English. Your real, human, warm, honest English. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Alex, your host from the Wonderful English Learning Podcast, reminding you every word you speak brings you closer to confidence. Until next time, keep learning, keep smiling, and keep shining with your words.